Are you overwhelmed by the challenge of personalizing communication for thousands of students? That's where Element 451's AI assistants come in. From nudging prospective students to guiding those already on their journey, AI assistants don't just automate, they write, build, and optimize every step of your digital campaigns. Discover how at element451.com/AI team.
Hit it! That's what I'm talking about. Wait!
Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to a special edition of Higher Ed Pulse. I'm your host, Mallory Willsea, and this is Enrollify's 2024 Hall of Fame, a celebration of the year's most impactful thought leaders. We've curated key moments from our Hall of Famers' appearances across the Enrollify network, highlighting the ideas and insights that are shaping the future of our industry. From groundbreaking takes on AI to bold strategies for student engagement, these voices set the tone for innovation in 2024. Let's jump right into today's episode. Today, we welcome Jon-Stephen Stansel to the Enrollify 2024 Hall of Fame. Jon is the founder of Saturn 9 Media and a trusted voice in higher ed social media strategy. With his deep expertise and candid approach, he's redefining how institutions think about social media's role in engagement. This year, Jon joined Jamie Hunt on Confessions of a Higher Ed CMO, Jenny Lee Fowler on Confessions of a Higher Ed Social Media Manager, and Jeremy Tiers on Mission Admissions. In the following clips, Jon sheds light on the untapped potential of social listening in higher ed. He argues that it should go beyond social media strategy to inform broader institutional decisions, like improving events, refining curriculum, and crafting messaging strategies. He also speaks to the immense pressure social media managers face, often under constant scrutiny. Jon emphasizes the importance of leaders providing support and trust, especially during a crisis, to empower social media professionals as experts in their field. Additionally, he calls for institutions to reframe social media management as more than an entry-level role, given its critical responsibilities. Instead, he advocates for experienced professionals to lead these efforts, supported by entry-level folks to ensure long-term success. Now, let's hear from Jon.
I think in higher ed, when you say social listening is often thought of as it informs social decisions. Like, oh, okay, I'm doing my social listening. This will inform the type of content I put on social. But in other industries, and I know Liz Gross is listening right now and going, yay, yay, because she would argue for this, that social listening should not just be used for social decisions, but it should be a part of every major decision at your university, from course offerings, from planning of events. Okay, we just had commencement. Give me a social listening report. Well, what didn't? Do we need to move the parking next year? Do we need to have more seats available? What were the pain points? What worked out well? You should be using social listening. From everything from like your highest level items down to like what cereals you have in the cafeteria. Like it should inform those decisions. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Like your university president needs to be having these conversations with the social media manager and going, hey, we're thinking about making this announcement, XYZ. Can you give me a social listening report on what's being said about this beforehand to help us make a better decision about this? Or at least if we're about to make an unpopular decision, help us with the messaging of that unpopular decision. I think higher ed is just so far behind on utilizing that as a tool. Seeing how it works in entertainment is just unreal. And also like empowers the audience and the fans. Like think about last time you tweeted about a TV show you were watching or a trailer that you saw, and that affects like somewhere that gets put into a spreadsheet somewhere. Like maybe they're not reading that exact thing, but there were 250,000 tweets about this minor detail in the trailer.
Yeah. I love the idea of like maybe somebody saying, if Penelope Featherington doesn't have red hair in the show, this is going to be a huge miss. And they were thinking, oh, well, the actress we were thinking about, she's going to have to dye her hair red. That's a deal breaker for audiences or stuff like that. It sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly how it happens. And sometimes it does, and sometimes they're like, well,
Right.
this actress is a bigger draw anyway. But the smart ones are the ones that are listening and making decisions based on some of that social listening data.
But that's a place where I think that I hope everybody listening to this is really taking note of this social listening piece and using it in this way, because I think that that notion of using what people are saying to inform the quote unquote product that we sell is so vitally important. And I think that the institutions that are going to thrive, because we're in a space where some are going to thrive and some are going to fail. That's just flat out the reality. Those that are going to thrive are going to be the ones that have their fingers more firmly on the pulse of what our audiences want. And social listening is a really good way to get your finger on that pulse.
Oh, for sure. And it's one of my favorite things. But to see it in action and actually see, okay, we pulled this data and this decision is being made based on that data. We're doing data-driven decision making. What we should all be doing anyway, And I don't think higher ed leadership quite understands the wealth of information that they have access to via social listening and how much it can help your university. I don't think they even know. So it's a struggle. I think it's something higher ed is far behind. Thank goodness there are people like Liz Gross who are like out there like touting it and making the case for it and providing that service to universities, because it needs to be done. And it's a bigger job. You can't just ask your social media manager like, hey, while you're running all the social for the university,
Right.
can you compile all these social, because they can get really in depth and really detailed. And I feel like I know social listening pretty well, but when I work with like experts like Liz, and I've worked with some in the entertainment industry, like Matt, how they compile these just massive piles of data, it's unreal.
Well, in higher ed, in theory, the folks running higher ed, for the most part, have PhDs or EDDs or some sort of doctorate where they've had to do a lot of data analysis to earn that degree. Like, you'd think that we would be more invested in data as an industry.
I think maybe they are, but like I said, I don't think they understand that it's there,
Yeah.
that you can compile
Yeah.
this, and that it's available, and we can actually take a very scientific approach to how we look at the social data. But once they see it in action, it's almost like
Yeah.
seeing a light switch come on, like, oh, we can do that, like I can find this information out. It's pretty remarkable.
Your social media manager needs to know you have their back. And this one is so important because social media managers have one of the few jobs on campus, or anywhere for that matter, where everyone from the intern in the mailroom to the president and board of trustees see their work and have a opinion on if it's good or bad, and they will let you know. Which is a lot of pressure for one person. Imagine if like every email you sent out throughout the day was scrutinized publicly for typos and factual errors. Like you would go, you'd burn out so quick. You'd be under so much pressure, but that's what we expect
So
of social
true.
media managers. So they need to know that they have a boss that has their back no matter what, especially during crisis comms. That if they post something and some professor gets it in their head that they don't like this and they want to go, I love faculty, but sometimes they can be divas. And just know that,
Yeah.
the social media has their back.
Give us an example, please. Like, what does that
Yeah.
look like when?
One time during crisis comms, I won't, and this was at a long ago. If you do the research in my career, you probably figure out what university it happened at. But like, there was a crisis, and I got permission to reply, and I got it from my boss, who was the director of marketing. He got permission from his VP boss and another VP boss, ran the language through them, got approvals in writing. but the one VP we didn't ask didn't like it and really almost wanted my head on a spike for something that was pretty tame. And my boss was just like, I have your back. Like you did everything right. You got the approvals. This is not on you. We're going to make sure, and kind of shielded me from that. And I think your social media manager needs that, because even through their best efforts and due diligence, you never know what's going to upset somebody, or somebody's going to think, oh, why aren't we doing it this way? Your social media manager needs to know that like you're in their corner. You're the expert and you're trusted. If no one else on campus trusts you, at least it's your boss.
If you think about it, especially on campuses, social media managers are often entry-level positions. They're not senior-level positions. So it's important for these people to feel like they are supported and, they are part of a team, even if it's you and your supervisor,
Exactly. And like you said, there's so much pressure that the job has. Like you can get in trouble for something you don't post. Like, why didn't we post about this? And it's like, well, okay, I don't know everything. There's a lot going on. And, I'm glad you mentioned like that they're entry-level employees. Like, honestly, I don't think it should be an entry-level position. It's too valuable. You're speaking on behalf of the university. You've got the keys to a very expensive car. Like you and now I that is not to say there isn't room for entry-level employees in social media management. I think there should be like social media assistants that work that gives those entry-level employees like that time to learn to work alongside a social media manager and work their way up and get their feet wet. And that can also be through internships and whatever, but it needs to be more than an entry-level position, because you're asking a lot of one person.
There's a lot of nuance in decision making, and it takes experience to not be reactive, I think. And so I hear you.
Several years ago, I just kind of made it my resolution that I was going to make Twitter a daily habit. And start posting more. And just every day I was going to do three things. I was going to post one original thought. I was going to respond to somebody else's post and share someone else's. And after about a month, Twitter just became an invaluable resource. And I just started posting more. And like, as I did that, I started to develop a following. I started to develop my own kind of voice. It helped me in my own career, because I became a better crafter of post and better writer of copy. But also I kind of had this idea, because originally I started as faculty and had this idea of like publish or perish ingrained into me. So when I became staff, I'm like, hey, why do we not encourage staff to do the same thing? I'm going to go out and I'm going to speak at conferences. I'm going to share my work. We had faculty members who were, sharing what they did on social media. I'm like, well, I'm going to do that too. So when that performance review comes up, I can say, hey, look at this, how I'm representing the university. And I think staff, if they're interested, should be, should do that. Be a good, a citizen of your professional community. And it can grow benefits. It can make grow your career. When the time came for me to move on from higher ed, one thing that happened to me is, I put it out there that I was looking for a new job. And one of my followers said, you know what, you are into comics and you also like, your social media stuff. Do you want to come work on this superhero show for Amazon? It's like, okay, sure. Yes. Sign me up. You don't know where it's going to take you. And you can also represent your own university in many ways. So, I would recommend it to anybody who's interested in just taking the time to do it. But the main thing is it takes time to do, and you just have to keep at it. You have to know for like the first year or two, you're not going to grow that much, but eventually it pays off. And if you enjoy doing it, it's not work.
Jon, congratulations on being inducted into the Enrollify 2024 Hall of Fame. Your expertise and advocacy for elevating social media strategy in higher ed continues to inspire and empower professionals across our industry. The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.